Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now today's date is the 23rd of November 2024. I know that date because today I had a workshop booked, a one-to-one workshop where we were going out to take some pictures with the 4x5 camera, come back and do some prints. But I woke up this morning, pulled the curtains back and I was greeted with this: Stormbird has arrived. So I think it's been much the same over the UK, and consequently I had to cancel the workshop and reschedule that. So I had to find something to do. We couldn't go out, it was that bad. So I thought I'd spend a few hours in the darkroom doing some prints, and also doing a print, getting a print ready, mounted, that somebody's bought from me. So these are the prints that I did. This is taken in St Stephen's Church at Stainburn. I did a video of me taking this picture and a few more from that interior of this church. This is on resin coated multigrade paper. This picture from a 4x5 paper negative. I love doing paper negatives. And another paper negative taken with the Voigtlander Bergheil 6x9. And then I've got a chance to get this picture all mounted up and ready to post. I've done a video, you saw me taking this picture. This was printed on Ilford fibre-based paper, and I thought for this video that I would take you on a little journey, because the snow's nearly melted now and the temperatures have gone up and it's not stopped raining. There's going to be a lot of flow going down that river Wharfe in Otley where I live. So I thought tomorrow morning, if it's not raining too heavy, I'm going to go with the Voigtlander Bergheil, this camera, and I use it with these backs, rider backs. I have two of them, and inside them I've put some photographic paper to make paper negatives. So that's the idea. And then once I've done that, come back and then show you how I use this. You've seen it before, the chamois. Show you how I use this, where I put the paper negative into the, you might call when it's fitted to the larger head, into that, and enlarge the paper negative using this. I can't use my my existing enlarger, which is a beautiful enlarger, but that enlarger only goes to 6x7. So once I've printed that and shown you how I've done the enlargement, and I'm going to do it the finished print on fibre-based paper, show you how I dry the fibre-based paper. This dryer cost me the princess sum of £10, and then how I mounted the picture to the backing board using this piece of equipment, this dry press, and then how I cut the mount on my Logan mount cutter itself, and I'll take you through the whole process and we'll see the finished product. And then when I've done that, I'm going to put that print on eBay, all mounted up on eBay for auction, again to help to support the channel. So go to bed now, get an early night, and then up early in the morning, or not too early, it's quite dark these days, but get out for about 9 o'clock, and hopefully it's not raining too heavy and I can get a couple of decent pictures with the Voigtlander Bergheil. So it's a journey that you might find interesting and pick a few tips up. Right, it's another day, and it was raining all morning, but it's eased off now. It's a little bit of drizzle. The temperature from yesterday at this time, or the day before, as it is today, is 20 degrees higher, and so it's feeling quite warm. Now when I get down to the weir, you're not going to hear me talking because the noise of the river and the weir will just overpower me. So I'll do my best to do some videoing, and I've got all my gear packed up, and rather than unfolding the camera, etc., and attaching the cable release there, I've already done that. I just want to get the tripod up, get the camera on and take the picture. But it is going to be a slowish exposure because the paper's rated at ISO 3, so we are going to get some blur in the water. I've got my light meter, and I've got fetching an umbrella with me just in case this drizzle or rain gets a little bit heavier. Now this is all the fun of sheet photography, because you can go out and capture 1 or 2 images, and you can come back and develop them on the same day. The problem with roll film is you've got to really shoot off the whole roll before you can develop it. So I love using paper negatives or sheet film. So we'll get off now, and hopefully the river's going to be flowing very quickly over that way, and we're going to get an interesting picture from the paper negative. It's always a little bit hit and miss with paper negatives, but he who dares wins, and you never know unless you try. So we'll get off there now, and hopefully the rain just keeps off. Right, I've just got into Otley Park, and we can hear the weir from here. It's really flowing down that way now. It's very high as the river. We'll see how bad it is, how high it is when we get around this corner. We're getting closer now. You can see the flow of the water. The River Wharfe is one of the fastest rising rivers in England, and the water goes down very quickly as well, so it's quite a dangerous river. You've got to be very careful because of the flow. You can see how fast it's flowing. That weir is really powerful now, the way it's flowing over the top of that. They put flood defences in a few years ago, and it's worked, because if they hadn't have done, where I'm stood here, nearly up to the road, up to where those people are walking, in the distance you can see them, all this area will be completely flooded. So they've cured that. Anyway, we'll get a bit closer, and then you will see how noisy it is. You can just feel the power. Amazing. Well, we're here now. And that's the power of the water. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Right, get the camera set up now, and then get this picture taken before it's right. Got the camera all set up, got it the picture composed, and I'm going to do a landscape orientation and then a portrait. So I'm going to take 2 pictures. It's dry at the moment, but the wind's getting up, can you believe? I think it did forecast that. So I'm going to take a light meter reading. Well, I've just taken one, and it's telling me 4 seconds at f12 on this camera. I'd say f11, and then that's going to cause some nice blur in the water. Anyway, we'll see what we get. So I'll take another light reading, put the radar back in, I'll show you the radar back when it's fitted, and then take the picture. Right, I've got the radar back on. I'm going to do a 2-second exposure at f12 on this camera, so hopefully it's going to turn out. So I'll check the dark side out now, and then take the picture. 1001, 1002. Right, I'm in the vertical format now. Don't think you'll see out through that viewfinder. So I'll get the lens stopped down, put the radar back on, and then check a light meter, read and take the picture. Radar back on. Set the exposure. So that was a second paper negative, and I gave that 3 seconds. It's coming a bit duller. But nice little setup, this Bergheil. It's a lovely camera, and it's got a wonderful helio lens on it, so we should get a decent looking image. Right, pack up now and then move on, but you can see the height of the river when we look at the bridge. I'll just have a little walk up there and show you it. But as I say, a couple of years ago, if they hadn't done the flood management, this would have been where I'm stood in 3 feet of water. It just it got up that high. That's the river. You can see the height of the river to the arches where the water comes through. Very, very high. The power of nature, absolutely awesome. Anyway, I enjoyed that. All packed up. Thankfully I didn't have to use my brolly. I'm going to go home and get these paper negatives developed. Right guys, I'm back home. I've got the two Radar backs. These are 6x9 backs, and if you can see this, that area there is the size of the negative. So it's 6x9, so we're going to get a decent size paper negative. So next thing to do is get the paper negative developed. As you've seen in a previous video, I developed them in ADOX adenol, basically rodinol at 1:100, very dilute, for about 3-4 minutes, just watching how the development goes. So that's the first job. I'll get that done and then I'll show you the paper negatives if they've turned out. Good old adenol, 5 mils. I'm just mixing up 500 mils of developer. There we have it. Right, get the paper out of the Radar back. And you can see it's there. That's the actual paper. So I'll get that out. And then bob it in the developer and just develop it and see how it develops. I might have to pull it if I can tell looking in this dim light, but see how it goes. I developed both paper negatives and now they're in the fix and they're safe to have a good look at. So this is the first image that I actually took in the landscape format. By the way, the paper I've used is Ilford multigrade glossy paper. Don't know if you can see that, but it don't look too bad. Detail in the shadows and in the highlights. The density is not too extreme. So that was the first one. Pop that in water. And this is the next one, the one that I did in the vertical format. And again, the density doesn't look too high. The detail in the water and in the sky and the highlights. So it'll be interesting to see how these print. As I did in a previous video, I pre-flashed the Ilford paper before I put them into the Radar back. I just think it helps with the contrast. Now, just to show you quickly, this is the Radar back, and to put the paper negative into it, you open it up obviously, pull out the film holder, and then this represents the paper negative. It's a bit of paper I've cut, and then just drop it into there, put the film holder back like that, then close it, and then you've got the dark slide in. It's light tight. When you take the picture, you pull it out, and that's your negative area, that area. So the great thing to use for paper negatives. Right, move on now. Get these negatives dry, paper negatives dry, and get them under the enlarger. Right, ready now to do the printing. The paper negatives are nice and dry now, and I've fitted my Chamonix 4x5 camera, and it's now acting as an enlarger head. That's the beauty of the Intrepid 4x5 kit. We can use negatives right from 35mm if we wanted to do, right up to 4x5. These are the negative holders, and all the rest in between. And I've got the 6x9 holder there, and that's what I'm going to use to hold the paper negative. So it's a great kit. But I've shown it in a previous video, so I won't show you again. The main thing now, when we get to this stage, ready to print, we need to think about what size picture that we're going to frame. Now for this I'm going to keep to 10x8, and then decide on what size of picture that I want within that 10x8 frame. And I think that I'm going to go for a 2-inch border, so I'll set the easel to 2-inch borders, and then adjust the blades so I get a 6x4-inch image on that paper. And when that goes onto the backing board, then you put your mount, cut your mount to go around it. So the next thing is for me to now compose within that area. A good idea sometimes is to help you is to put a piece of paper under the easel at the size that your paper size is going to be, and then in this case it's 10x8, and then just draw a line round it, and then you can see that that's how it's going to look. So that's going to be your print size, and this is going to be the mount going around the picture, if you can understand that. So the next step now is to get this paper negative enlarged to fit within that area, and then just get your composition what you want, and then do some test strips and get printing. Sorry about the quality of the video, but this is my composition. It's basically the same size of the paper negative, and keeping in mind that this picture area is within an 8x10 inch piece of paper, so I've got a 2-inch border all the way around, and that you could say is my mount board that's going to go over the top of it, and I think it'll look quite nice. So I'm going to do the testing now to make the print. I'll do it all on resin coated paper, and then when I've got the exposure correct, etc., I'll then work on fibre-based paper, because I think fibre-based does give a better quality looking image. I'm not going to show you me doing all the test prints, etc. I'll just show you the finished print when I've done it. Then I'll show you how I wash it, dry it, and then mount it to the backing board, and then cut the final mount that goes around the picture. So I'll get printing now and then see where we go. So this is a second fibre-based print that has been fixed. I've done one before this, and I quite like the look of this. It's got a really old look to it. Don't know if you can actually see that on the video, but it might look a little bit light on that. But what I'm going to do is wash them in running water for 5 minutes, then soak them in Ilford wash aid for 10 minutes, and then another 5 minutes wash, and that should get all the fixer out of the fibre-based paper and make it very archival. And then to make it even more archival and add contrast, I think I'm going to selenium tone both the prints. It'll just add a little bit more contrast, and it'll give it that lovely colour of the selenium. So as I say, wash this now 5 minutes, wash aid 10 minutes, and then 5 minutes more wash. Right, both prints have had about 5 minutes wash, so we'll get them in now into the wash aid. Right, give them a soak in wash aid for 10 minutes. You have to be very careful with this stuff because it's quite potent, so always wear gloves. Set the timer, and then just gently agitate it down again to get this stuff into the paper. And then we wash it again for 5 minutes, and then I will selenium tone them and then I'll show you how I dry the prints. You can either dry the prints just by air drying, or you can use a heater that I'll show you in a minute anyway, that dries the prints very quickly. Right, both prints are fully washed, and I'm going to put them in the Selenium toner. Very careful I don't get any more on my hands, again it's quite potent. And just watch this develop. There's no real set time really. I mean, you can Selenium tone and it'll have no effect on the look of the image. I just want it to create some better contrast and just add a slight warmth to the image. What stinks is this stuff. It's just starting to change colour now. You probably won't be able to see that, but it is. Then I'll put it back in the wash and give it another long wash, and then when that's done we'll dry the prints. Right, both prints are washed now. I'm just going to get as much water off them as possible using the squeegee. Now, if you were going to air dry these prints, you could lay them on mesh and let them air dry. They'll still curl, but not too bad. You can put both prints together and hang them up. That stops it curling a little bit, but you still get a lot of curl. The way that I deal with the fibre-based print is this way. If we take a look over here. Right, we'll get these fibre prints dried. The problem with fibre-based papers is that they're so floppy when they're wet, and they are difficult to dry without curling, and we need them flat to be able to dry mount them with mounting tissue. So the way that I work it, I've got a heater here. It's really hot as that. Make sure there's no bits on it that'll dint the print, and then just lay the prints onto that surface. Cover them with the cloth, and that allows it to allows the moisture to come out. And when the prints are dry, which will take about 15 to 20 minutes, they're still going to have a slight curl. So as I say, I need them to be flat to dry mount them. So from there, I'm going to put them in between two pieces of mount board, and this is what they call release tissue. It's like a silicone. It stops the prints from sticking to the boards, and put them in this dry press. You can use a hot press, and then close the press, get it nice and hot, and then leave it for around about a minute. You can lift it up to have a little look, and the prints should go dead flat. Take them out, put them on a cold surface, cover them with heavy books, and you should then have flat prints that are going to be easy to dry mount. So I'll wait till these are dried, and then we'll bob them into the dry press. Right, they should be dry now. Yeah, they feel dry, a bit of a curl, you see. So I'm going to cut a little bit off the sides. I don't need that on the print, and then a little bit off this side. Place them flat down like that. That seems okay. Push it under the press, and then close the press and making sure you don't trap your fingers, and then just leave it there for around about a minute, and we'll see if they go flatter. So you can see it's a very involved process making these prints. It's not quick, it's a lot quicker with resin coated papers. Would have been done and finished now, but with this type of paper there's a lot more work involved. This is round about, there's no numbers on there, sorry, no scale for the temperature, it's just in numbers, but I think it's around about 100 degrees, so it's very hot. So look, a little bit longer. The joys of film photography, or you might not say film, but of chemical photography. It's all fun, and I don't think you can really judge a print properly until it's displayed correctly. As I always say, they have to be dressed correctly to look good. Might have another look. I think that's about it. Well, they're quite flat now. That there. So I'll leave them on a cold surface like this here, and then cover them with a bit of tissue, and then heavy books like that, and then I've got a big box of screws here that I use as a weight, and then just leave them to cool down naturally, and then those prints will be ready to well, one of them will be ready to dry mount, and I'll show you next how I do that using dry mount tissue. Right, the print that I'm going to use is dead flat now. It's a fibre-based print. It's really flat and it's ready to dry mount. And while I was waiting for that print to flatten out and dry, I was looking at the paper negatives that I did, and I couldn't understand why they were overexposed like they are, because I was sure I got the exposure right, the metering. So I investigated the Bergheil camera. Now keep in mind, I haven't used this camera for quite a while, and with it being stood, when I put it on time and opened the shutter, that worked okay, but when I shut it, the shutter was very slow, slightly sticking in closing, and I think that caused this overexposure. Well, I'm absolutely certain it did. So it was a technical fault, but it's created quite a nice a picture. It's quite unique, and I think it'd be difficult to replicate, and it's got like a pencil drawing look to it. So in some ways that accident with that shutter not working correctly has created quite a unique image, and I think when I get this mounted up it's going to look really nice. So the first thing to do to get the paper to the paper is to cut the backing board. Now, as I say, we set all this out for a 10 by 8 inch a picture in a 10 by 8 mount, so we cut the backing board the same size. And what I like to do is double up on the mount, so I cut two mounts at 10 by 8 and I stick them together with dry tissue, and that forms a very strong rigid board that the print goes onto, and the mat board or the mount over the top, and it's a really, as I say, a rigid structure. It just feels more substantial. So the first thing to do is cut these 10 by 8 backing boards. I've got them marked out, and I'm going to use my Logan cutter to cut them. So just bob that in like that and then pull it across, and that's one cut, and then do another one, and hopefully they should be near enough exactly the same. very, very sharp, these blades, so you've got to be careful on these cutters. So that's the two boards cut, and they're exactly the same size. So the next thing for me to do is to use the cold press to stick them together with dry mounting tissue. So what I'll do is, I've got some already cut, is place that tissue on one piece of the mount board. Then you use the tacking iron. This is a little what's called tack iron, and it's very, very, very hot at the end. And then just stick it in the middle like that. Doesn't need long. And then you can see that's stuck down to there. Then place the other board on the top, making sure that they're exactly the same together. That looks about right. And then I'm going to put some silicone release paper on the bottom and the top so it gets stuck. I'm going to put it in this cold press, a cold press that gets hot for around about 20-25 seconds, and that should be enough to melt that dry adhesive and bond the two boards together. So slide it in there. And we're in. Just make sure they're the same. That's okay. And close the mount. The press. And I'm going to leave it now for about 25 seconds. And that should, as I say, melt the dry tissue, give a perfect bond to these boards. The reason you use the release paper, it's like a silicone. You can use baking foil. It's just to stop things sticking together. So I'll have a little look now. Don't want to damage things. Let's see the. No, they're not stuck yet, so give it a little bit longer. Turn the heat up a little bit. This is very, very hot, so but because the heat's having to transfer through onto the board, it'll take a little bit longer for it to melt and bond the boards together. So that's around about 40 seconds, and I think that's done the trick. You have to excuse the noise. It's my wife who's hoovering upstairs. So that's the mounting board stuck together, and again I'll stick it under a couple of books and then just trim the excess paper off around the edges. And then the next thing to do is now mark out the actual position when that's cooled down of where the print's going to go, and then I'm going to stick the print with the tissue onto the mount, onto the backing board, and then we'll mark out and cut the actual mount that goes over the top. Right, the backing board has cooled down and it's nice and flat now. I've cut the excess dry mount from it, and it's created a very solid surface to dry mount the print on. Now I'm going to mark a 2-inch line from the edges all the way around the backing board, and then the print, which is 6x4, will be dry mounted onto that area. The first thing I have to do is get some tissue to the back of this print first, and then trim it down. So we'll do that next. So I'm just marking out the area for the print on the backing board. Doesn't matter about what you do on the backing board, it doesn't show on the inside. So that's going to be the area of the print in there with this 2-inch board all the way around. So the next thing to do is get some tissue, mounting tissue, get the print, make sure it's clean, and just lay it over the print like that. Get the tacking iron and just tack it down. You have to leave it on too long because this iron could mark the print. So that's okay, and then turn the print over, and now I'm going to trim the print down so the dry mount tissue covers every part of the actual print itself. Just move it over a little bit, and then find the print edges. So awkward on this video, I like to see where they are. There we are, I think that's correct. So cut that down now, this very sharp blade. Move it to this side. So you can see the mounted tissues now completely covering the back of the print, so it'll stick it on the board nice and firmly. So the next thing to do is to actually line it up on these marks. It doesn't have to be absolutely precise. We can adjust the mount, and then what I'm going to do is get the tacking iron and just lift carefully a corner of the print. If you can see that, then there's a little bit of a dry mount adhesive. Just tack it there. This is to make sure it doesn't move when I put it into the press. Again, this side. That should be enough. Now that's ready now to go into the press, and we'll do that now. I'll cover the print with this silicone release paper so it doesn't get marked, and I'll leave it under for about 6 seconds, and it should be well and truly mounted onto this backing board. And we'll do that now. Right, I'm going to sandwich the board and the print together with some of this silicone release paper, and then slide it into the press like that. And I've got to be careful I don't do it too long, otherwise I'll damage the print itself. So we'll start off with round about 5 seconds and see if that does it. Let's have a little look. 5 seconds. And that is fully evenly mounted. It's stuck at the edges, etc. You can see that's mounted very, very nice. Next thing now to cut the mount to go over the top. So that's it. Really the final part of the paper negative, printed on photographic paper, and then the paper print mounted onto a paper backing board. And this is the finished result. It's dried now, and it's permanently bonded to this backing board. It's worth mentioning when you're dry mounting that you must keep everything clean. You don't want any bits underneath this print. When you press the lid down and you heat it up, it'll leave little bubbles or marks on the print. Always be clean. And also you always use acid-free mounting board, and the mounts, make sure they're acid free. If you don't, the mounts will go off in colour, they'll go darker in colour, and the contact between the print and the backing board, it could stain the print over a number of years. So make sure you use acid free boards. Don't worry about the tissue. Most of tissues are archival, they don't contain any acids, so that won't affect the print at all. So when you cut the mount, always make sure that it's a little bit smaller than the print size. Don't try and cut it to the edges because you'll probably find that your measurements aren't that accurate. You need a little bit of play, so make sure the opening is a little bit smaller than the actual print size. And when you're using the cutter, always cut from the inside I'll show you this in a minute. You'll mark it on the marks on your mounting board to make sure that the bevel of the mount runs the correct way. Right, we'll cut the mount now, and I'll show you me cutting it. I'll get a little bit closer and you'll understand the cutting process a little bit better. Right, I've got the mount already cut and marked out. That's the central area that's going to come out. That'll be the opening that shows the picture. And I've made it slightly smaller than the picture size, just in case I've got any errors in measurements on the backing board. Now, it's important when you're cutting the mounts out that your cutter has a sharp blade. It's no good if it's rusty, it needs to be very sharp. And you need to place some old mat board underneath, covering that slit there. Just enables you to get a lot cleaner cut. Now, when you're cutting, this is where people make a lot of mistakes, cutting mounts. You have to work from the inside of the mount. So always make sure that your cutter is on the inside. It's working from the inside, the part that's going to come out. Now you can see on this cutter that there's a, if it focuses there, there's a mark there. And I always align that mark up with the lines that I've created. If I don't do that, I'm going to either undercut or overcut. So it's important to use that registration mark there on these lines. So with the mount cutter, or the mount, the first cut, line up the first pencil mark with the straight edge or the rail, and then put the cutter onto the board. Now this is what they call a stop. Very important, these. And align that line I've just showed you on the cutter to the pencil mark, and I do that throughout the cutting process. So I just have to adjust that stop, and then once that's done, make sure it's absolutely precise. Come back to this side and then align that line up with this pencil mark here. I hope I'm not confusing you with this. And then when we're aligned up, we press down, put the blade into the mount, and then push forward, and that stops it going too far, and we're in line with this line here. And then we simply take the cutter off, turn it round that way, align the pencil line again with a straight edge. You have to make sure it's nearly exactly right doing this. And then again, using your stop, make sure that the datum line there is lined up with the pencil line. Line it up at this side, lined up there, and do the cut again, and carry on doing the same on the other two sides. Again, put the mark to the pencil line. When I've done this, the actual opening should just fall out. Line up there, that's the stop, that's just off. You've got to get these correct to get good cuts. Line it up at this side, push it in and then cut, and this is the last cut. Set my stop, and it's just falling out, and there's the cut mount. The bevel's the correct way, etc. And that's a good cut. It isn't short and it isn't over. Next step is just to get this hinge on the backing board, and we've finished. Now the final thing we have to do to get this ready to place into a 10 by 8 frame is to hinge the cutout or the mount onto the backing board, it nice and accurately placed, and then you can use different types of tape. Again, make sure that archival. I use this framers tape, which is acid free. You're tempted to lick this to stick it, but don't. I use distilled water with a little brush. Get the water onto that, and then stick it onto the board. So then we've got our paper hinge, as you might say. Right. Press that down. Doesn't take long to dry, and then we fold it over, and that's the finished mounted picture, ready to put in a frame. Right guys, we're nearly at the end of the video. It's been a long video. I don't think I can do short videos, but I have put a lot of content into it, and I really wanted to show the work that goes in to going out, taking a picture, in my case with a paper negative, using a vintage camera to take the picture, coming back, developing the paper negative, enlarging it, and then printing it on fibre-based paper, how I wash it, how I dry it, how I get it flat, and then finally how to cut the mount, finally mounting the picture onto a dry mount it onto a backing board, and then how to cut a mount. There's a lot of work involved in getting to that stage, and I really wanted to show that, and I think some of that content might be interesting to some people watching this video. The only thing that went wrong was the exposure. Now this paper negative has been overexposed, and it was caused by the shutter closing slowly on the Voigtlander Bergheil. I hadn't used it for a while, and I should have fired it a few times to loosen it up. So it's caused this overexposure, but in some ways I'm glad that it did, because it's created a paper negative, or a print from the paper negative, that's quite unique. It's got a really timeless quality to it, an ethereal look to it, and I think anybody who's got this hung on the wall in a frame will be really pleased with it, and it's certainly unique. So I'm going to put that the mounted, or I think it's called matted, they call it in America, print onto eBay for auction. If you win the auction, all you've got to buy is a 10x8 frame, and you can hang it on your wall. I'll leave a link in the description to that auction. It all helps to support the channel, and all the funds that I get from these sales go back into me buying paper and chemicals. So that is the end of the video, you'll be glad to know, apart from I'm going to show you the finished mounted print all signed. If you enjoyed the content, please give me a thumbs up, a like. Better still, subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell, and as I always say, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Let's take a closer look at this beautiful fibre-based mounted print.